I'm just lazy. And it's never about the art. You, for example, never thought, right now it isn't moving, maybe because it isn't ripe. Who knows? Instead, you chose to make it about you. But if you would have a fruit garden, you wouldn't go to the tree and be like, oh no, the fruits are still green. How lazy am I? You would understand that everything has its time. And when they are ripe, you will know.
My friend Alex Monas is a transformative coach. He works with people who struggle with relationships, are hypersensitive, or diagnosed with ADHD. And he helps them work through the obstacles that they face in their daily lives. What follows is an impromptu coaching session where we speak about my challenging relationship with art. I know that many of us are struggling with things like perfectionism and self-doubt or social anxiety, and I learned a lot here, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Alex Monas.
Okay, I struggle with perfectionism.
Maybe for context, like these are problems people have and I've had when I'm in the studio trying to make art, or when I'm taking a course and it's time to share the work I've done with the teacher, maybe uploading it on the Discord server. And I don't want to do it because it's not good enough, but I know I should, because if I upload it, I get feedback and I learn. But there's this internal friction. Like, yeah, all of these could be excuses, but some feel very convincing.
Yes, yes.
So can they all be just dissolved by realizing that it is my ego being afraid, and not seeing that my teacher is me on the most fundamental level, or the other students that I'm afraid of, maybe they're judging me and I'm too shy. This is all because I don't see that fundamentally we are all the same. We are one meta being, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Is it that simple? Just to remember that and then upload the work?
So first of all, I know firsthand probably every single one of these. Like, to me, this is exactly, like, literally my thinking sometimes still. It really resonates. I'm so glad that you put it to writing, because then, and I recommend to everyone to write down the thinking that seems to hold you back, because then it stops moving. When it's in your head, and I think this method has been called morning pages, with OU, morning, okay, so what I'm gonna say is the thought stops moving when you write it down, and that alone can be part of the healing, because as long as you don't pin it down, it will evolve, and it will even evade. You will.
Yeah, it's so fast, it's so slippery, and like, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Slippery really hits it on the. It's really on point to say it's slippery, because you then try to have it, but the thought is like, no, but, and then it has all of a sudden it's different, and then you cannot find peace when you have not, like, make it isolated it and seen its nothingness, basically. So that's what we're gonna just try. And the process of doing this, I will just call it forgiveness, okay? But you can call it letting it go, you can call it surrendering to it, you could call it reframing. It doesn't matter how you call the process. It doesn't matter how it felt this time for you to at first think something and then in the end not thinking anymore, or at least not believe it anymore. And this is why I'm just gonna call it forgiveness.
Can we find, like, do the testing now? Find something for me where I feel stuck?
Yeah.
And then do the process and then test again?
Fun. Yeah.
So I have these two projects I'm working on, that I've been working on for 1 year, and the other one 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And I just dragging them with me, and then feeling guilty and feeling ashamed and feeling frustrated. So that there's a point here somewhere of I can't get started, something like this. When I think of going to the studio and continuing on either one of these projects, the overwhelming sense I get is that I don't have what it takes to make this a good painting.
Yeah.
So why even start?
Okay.
But then, of course, part of me thinks I do have what it takes, because otherwise, why take the commission? I would have already called the client and said, sorry, I can't do it, but I'll give you your money back.
Yes.
What I want is have the courage or confidence to just start. And maybe it can even be enjoyable. It's an art, it's a dream job, I can make a painting and get paid for it even. Wow. And I have freedom, and but somehow I haven't been able to get to a place where I'm excited about continuing to work.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing. So if you say you feel guilty, which is always the core, by the way, this is why I'm calling it forgiveness, because a guiltless mind cannot suffer, right? So let's say it's you feel guilty about this stuff, and you can choose one project and just talk about that one, or you can look in both projects where you find it best. What would you say if you would have to describe what is it about guilt? What comes to mind?
The word shame is also very present.
Well, shame is just guilt, but towards identity. Guilt is towards what you do or what you don't do. Oh, I feel so guilty for killing that guy, and shame would be, I feel so guilty because I'm a murderer. I feel shameful. So shame is even a deeper form of suffering, because it makes it an identity. Who am I? I'm this procrastinator. I'm this. And guilt is like, what kind of shit do I do? I'm.
Yeah, it's more shame, I think.
Mm-hmm. So shame would be like, I'm unworthy, I am not good enough, I am this and that. It's about I am, and then something. Yeah. So what would it be?
Unprofessional.
Unprofessional, yes. A bad artist, I am stuck, whatever, So I hope you hear the difference, because guilt is about what you did wrong or what you didn't do. Obviously, all is just in thought. In thought about the past that doesn't exist. And shame is about what you think you are at that moment. Like, I am this body who is not worthy, or I'm such a loser. That would be shame.
Yeah, why I have such good training, why can't I just sit down and finish these paintings?
Yeah.
Is step one identifying the story, or how would you call it?
I would call it, the step one is just realizing that you are not at peace. Like, I am not at peace. I am not at perfect peace, even, you could say. Like, there is something that, because you could argue, yeah, I have some kind of peace, but I really mean this whole, like, there is nothing that could complete me right now. I'm at perfect peace. I'm really fine with myself. And for many people, it's a rare state, but this is why we are doing this, because this is what's on the table. You can be at perfect peace. So that's the marketing. Okay, step 2 is taking responsibility. I would call it something like, I must have decided wrongly because I am not at peace. So what does this mean? It basically says, I am not a victim. Okay? Like, it's not that someone or something is making me not finish my job. But most people do it in a way where they are like guilting themselves even more. Like, not taking responsibility in a way that, like, how can I hurt myself even more?
Yeah.
This is not what I'm saying, because I'm not talking about your behavior right now. I'm talking about your state of mind. You are not at peace, and for that also you are responsible. And it is not the unfinished art project that is responsible for that, but the state of your mind.
The story I tell myself about why that is and who I am.
Yeah. Because even though this one job hasn't been finished for 2 or 3 years, you still have periods of relative peace and periods of
when I forget about it.
Exactly. And periods of unrest where you don't forget about it, where you are which means when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So and like, to be very precise, in the moments where you forget about it, it doesn't exist. And in the moments where you think about it, you make it real. You're like, yes, I'm still this bastard. How can I be so unprofessional or whatever? In the moment where you feel like shit, you must have decided wrongly to tell yourself some story that makes you to not be at peace. And even willingly so. It might be unconscious, and it is innocently. It is innocent, but no one else is there, so you must have been doing it. So maybe you were thinking, if I just guilt myself enough, the pressure will be high enough that I will start it.
Yeah.
Maybe something like this. Or this is something that you just picked up, you learned. Maybe, and this is, again, very important. This is not for making someone else responsible for what you just did to yourself. This is just an explanation. Maybe you picked it up from your mom or your dad, who was the same way, who was like, you haven't done your homework, you piece of shit. And so you might have learned that this is the strategy to make you finish something, right? So there was some secondary benefit, but it doesn't matter. I'm just saying that you still have to take full responsibility, because whatever it is, you're doing it right now, and you are it. So maybe you can note, it is always innocent, 100% innocence, psychological innocence. You didn't choose what you think right now, and you don't choose what you will be thinking in 10 minutes. I don't know what I'm going to be thinking in 10 minutes, but I know that my feelings will highly reflect what I'm thinking. Feeling and thinking will gonna support itself. My feelings will be kind of the special effects of my thinking, or the audio to the video of to the visual information of my thoughts. So it's innocently, exactly, and probably unconsciously, because I have not consciously decided, oh, you know what, I'm gonna be really unforgiving and mean to myself in 10 minutes.
But then I have a difficulty with the word having decided. If it's innocently and unconsciously, then it wasn't really me.
It's a great question, because the decision happens on a different level. It's not, I must have decided wrongly what I think, but that you even believe that personal thinking in first place. That's the wrong decision. The wrong decision was that you were even that you kind of started trusting this voice in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was wrong about thinking that I'm unprofessional, because I actually am very professional. This is not the level of wrong decision. The level of wrong decision is one level higher. The fact that I believe my thinking about this about this me, instead of staying with the peace that I am, instead of knowing that who I truly am, or what I truly am, cannot be threatened by anything.
Realizing that I'm not at peace means that I'm telling myself some story, which is not the deeper truth.
Yeah. Yes.
Oneness.
You cannot be both, like feeling peaceful and like mind wandering, thinking about the past, the future, making up stories and believing them. You cannot only have one, right? So, yeah, put this in parentheses. So I identified with a story about myself in parentheses, and then just say, I must have decided wrongly, in Klammern, identified with a story about myself, because it is important that it is wrongly. as an unfactual. It is not a fact. It is just an image in my mind. Yeah. And this, because I'm not at peace, is just how you know it. How do I know it? Well, I'm not at peace.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the ego will say, of course you're not at peace, you piece of, right? Because you haven't delivered yet. And it will try to make it real. And then still, you can stay with that and say, oh yeah, shit. Or you can decide otherwise. You can decide otherwise. And innocently. Innocence is very important because it's all
For
about
forgiveness.
guilt. Yeah.
It's important.
So step 3 is to say, I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise.
Yeah, this is tricky for me to follow. Like, I made the decision unconsciously and innocently myself.
But myself, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's kind of easy because it's how you were breathed for the last half hour.
Say again?
It's kind of like, my metaphor for this is you were breathed passively.
Mm-hmm.
You were passive. Your body was
By the
passively
body.
breathed by whatever you think, like by the body, by a higher intelligence that does these things, by whatever you identify with, you know. So it's not, you were not consciously like breathing for the last half hour and not consciously working your liver and consciously working your immune system and growing your hair and blink with your eyes.
Thoughts are the same. Thoughts that arise.
Yeah. So it just happened, and it was innocently. So you breathed innocently and unconsciously. You didn't choose to breathe the way you would be breathing. It just happened. Okay. And of course, you could now go and say, oh shit, what kind of bad breather am I? You know, or how can I be such a bad breather? Like, I have this watch that tells me I'm breathing too slow or too fast, whatever, you know. It's just hard. So this is why it might be a good example, because for some examples, it's really easy to fuck yourself up. And some examples, it's really hard. And like bodily base functions, it's most people don't make it a big deal for them. So I made the decision myself, but I can also decide otherwise.
And that means that because I made it, it means I can change it.
Well, and I can decide otherwise. Yeah. So again, decide to basically not to buy into the usual story, right? Like, we don't have to edit here, but it's just, we're going to talk about this. Not to buy into this, well, I'm just this little me, just this little separated thing, just this little story, and, you know, exactly. Yeah, you could say so. And then, I guess, step 4 is the declaration. I want to decide otherwise. That's the easiest part, if you know it. Declare, I want to decide otherwise because I want to be at peace.
What's the title of step 3?
I don't know. It's made up, I guess. No, I don't know. I made the decision. Yeah, I don't know.
If step 2 is taking responsibility, step 3 is understanding.
Just empowerment, basically. I can decide otherwise. It is still my function to decide.
Maybe insight.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it's a declaration of ability. You know, it's about the ability. You made the decision yourself. I'm taking full responsibility for it. This is step 2, and the third is like, but I also can decide otherwise. I am powerful. I can decide otherwise. I am not bound to it. Just because I made a wrong decision, I'm not stuck there. I have no investment bias. I don't want to be right about this. This is what step 3 is. I don't want to be right with my version of reality because it feels like shit. right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to keep propagating this 5 more years of my trauma or whatever it is, because it is not, it isn't
Hasn't
helping.
served me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can decide otherwise. It's like, I love it. Like right now is a good time. I can decide otherwise. And then step 4 is I want to decide otherwise. Not only I can, not only the possible model or operator of possibility, but I want it. I desire a different decision because I want to be at peace. I want to find a different way of looking at things that will show me the truth, And the truth is always benign and perfect and full of love and joy and peace.
So when any of these things here come up, it's a trigger for like, okay, I'm not at peace and I want to be, so I need to have a different interpretation of what's going on.
And often it's not like the different interpretation might not be in the words. So it might not be a different sentence that is just better.
No.
It might be just dropping it. And this is what I mean by forgiveness. Just whatever, man. That didn't serve me. I want to see it differently. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess step 5 would be to just let go of it and even this process. What I usually say at that point is just something like so let me see it differently. It sounds like a prayer, right? It's like just let me see it differently. It's not I cannot see better than I do. I don't want to. I already made up my mind once and it felt like that. And I just realized I don't want that. So I want to see it differently. And this time I won't be the one trying to make a different variation of this story. Just let me see it differently. Let me see it truly. Let me see it in light, in a different light at least, but with truth, with the eyes of the whole picture, with the eyes of oneness, maybe, with the eyes of connectedness to everything. And then I will completely give that up. I will not be like, and now I have to work at it until I find the solution. Now I have to ruminate about it and really break my mind about it, because that hasn't worked, right? Like we did that before to come up with these 20 ideas of how to hurt ourselves mentally. Yeah. And instead just be open to see it anew. Just be open to be open to see it anew always requires you to not be so attached anymore to what you thought. But instead be like, well, my version, I will loosen the grip on my version. I don't want to be right in this. I want to be shown a different way. Yeah. And when you write your grip, which is correct at this point, because we were identified with the ego, but in this place, it is the ego's grip. The ego wants to, you can write your in Klammern ego, yeah, in parentheses, the ego's grip. Because you are still identified with this. You are still like, but I need to make it work. I need to deliver. I need to do something. I need to. And this is like this pressure of this separation idea. Like it's always urgent and it tries to scare you into submission. It's kind of, yeah. So the course says it's vicious at best. No. Suspicious at best and vicious at worst. Suspicious at best and vicious at worst. So the best the ego can do, even like in your most everything is fine kind of state, like you have your wife and children and house and car and boat and everything, and you're rich, and your dog is licking your face, then the ego will still be suspicious and be like, but what about the neighbors? Do they like you? The ego will still be suspicious, and this is at best, and vicious at worst. And like you might know your own examples, but I won't go into my viciousness examples for now. So yeah. Okay. I if I'm just looking at your nice summary, I might somewhere add the words, I don't want to be right here. I don't want to be right with my story, with my version of reality.
In the sense of wanting to be correct or accurate.
Yeah. I like to think this. It's just what I'm saying. In my own forgiveness practice, which is a practice, by the way, and I'm getting better at it, and it can take some time until you get really good and until it feels amazing. It feels like letting go so much mental load. It really feels like ecstatic release. If you at some point, if you had this, whatever it was, guilt, grief, whatever, and then at some point you see it in a different light and you can just let it go.
Mm-hmm. How is
Yeah.
this? I no longer desire to be right with my old story.
Yeah. It's even more than that. It's even saying, like, because this is a statement about the past, or it's a negative state. It's a statement you don't desire. You actually desire to be wrong. So I desire to be wrong with my old story. I don't want to be right. I really want that what I made up to be the truth is not the truth. Yeah. Well, yeah. So exactly, and this goes back to step 2. I think I must have decided wrongly, right? I must have decided wrongly. My story about myself is not true, right? Because I'm not at peace, and you want to know that you were wrong with your story. I don't know, like maybe it doesn't matter. So it's not the most important part. So and this can be a stepwise process of very mental, like you just put it, which can be very useful. It is, but it's very mental right now.
Yeah,
And
which
it
is my
will.
tendency.
Yeah, that's fine.
As
That's
you
fine.
can see here.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I can totally relate to that, and me too. And it helped me tremendously to go through these kinds of steps. So at first, it seems like a sequential process, like step 1, step 2, step 3, and it seems very mental. And I just wanted to say that you can expand over and over your understanding of forgiveness, acceptance, reframing, letting go, surrendering to what seems to be, um, whatever you call it. So I will call it forgiveness. You can expand your idea of forgiveness more and more to include more and more. And what I mean by that is, if you know that there is nothing that you are worthy of less than perfect peace, then you can be curious of how to let go everything that is less but perfect peace. Then you can sit there and be like, am I at perfect peace right now? And if you find something that is not perfect peace, you just ask yourself, like, do I want to keep this? And if you
Sounds
don't,
like very high level.
yeah, like I'm just saying it's a spectrum, right? And in the end, I picture people like Buddha or Jesus. They were like, and it was gone. Okay, it was more of a split second emotional letting go, because they were so used to it and so practiced. Really, it's a practice. It's so practiced in forgiving that to them, whenever something would come up, even like judgment would like surface, they would be like, and it would just dissolve. They wouldn't even go there. And I think, and this is why I like the word so much, maybe now it becomes clear, forgiveness comes from like giving before. So in the end, it's not only a process to deal with what seems like the past. I was like, I did something wrong in the past, or he did something wrong in the past, and I have to forgive. In the end, it is also a great process to come from, or to a great state of mind. The forgiving state of mind is just like having a state of mind where everything that happens, and you even declare ahead of time forgiveness before, that you will just give it your full love and trust, and not holding back with adjustments and guilt and whatever. You will just go with it, whatever surfaces. And it has some aspect of courage and of being in the world and of showing up, you know. And it's an attitude of forgiveness. This is what I'm talking about. So
Proactively.
yeah, and like being there, you know, and just going through it no matter what. Like, even knowing there will be fear, yeah, but I have this attitude of forgiveness, so I will deal with it. I will forgive it when it comes up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
There will be judgment from the outside, yeah, but I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna forgive it when it comes up. Like having this positive outlook even on the negative sounding effects. So maybe you can help me. I heard you say something like, well, I don't feel like I know what I can do it, or when I
I don't
sit
have
down,
what it takes.
I don't have what it takes. And this might be a little radical, but what if this is even true for art? You know, what if you are relying on the wrong strength there?
What if I'm relying on the wrong strength? The
Yeah,
strength would be
with the
having what
strength
it
of the
takes.
ego. What if you're relying of the, if it's to be, it's up to me, and I have to make art happen, and I am the source of art?
Yeah.
What do you hear in that? Like,
Yeah, it makes me think of being a channel for whatever, like life energy.
wow.
And so if I found recently that setting up the palette, like putting the paint out, squeezing the paint out on the palette, is kind of a threshold moment. Like once that happened, I can flow. So it kind of, that act frees me from all the mental spinning around. And in this frame, it's like showing up in front of the canvas opens the door for being a channel.
Absolutely.
But sitting in front of the computer and doing emails and other important things, because I don't want to feel that shame of, like, my mind goes to the paintings, to the projects, and immediately the shame comes up. I haven't done it, or what are they going to think? Like, I don't want to feel that, so I'm going to go focus on something that I know I can get results, like send another 5 emails.
Wow. Yeah. And I think everyone can relate. I mean, I can totally relate to that. I think this is beautifully put.
So it's like slowing down a bit when I feel that discomfort, or even, yeah, like I see the painting and I feel like all the weight of having not worked on it. Okay, stop. This means I'm not at peace. This means I'm telling myself some story that might not be true. Or you would say that is definitely not true.
It cannot be, yeah. But
I'm
yeah,
not
like
quite there yet.
whatever, yeah, exactly. Whatever works for you for that moment, yeah. That's
Yeah,
fine, by the way. I'm not insisting on any
sure.
on any real thing. Yeah.
Whatever works, yeah. And what works will change. So like, I'm suffering, I'm not at peace. So there might be a story I'm telling myself about what's happening that might actually be wrong. It's like, oh, great, there's some hope. Okay, I want to feel different. I want to not suffer. So, like, I open to life or higher self or inner wisdom or whatever. Please show me a different way of seeing this that brings me closer to peace and flowing with life rather than trying to swim against it.
In the end, all I'm hearing when you or even my own inner me goes on with this kind of stuff is it's always about him. It's all about me, you know. And it's like, what does it mean about me? Oh shit, I'm this useless artist, or I can't grow right now. I work like, look, all of these statements, 22 statements, all
Start with
in,
I.
yes, like it's all my I whatever. It's all me exactly. It's all me, and and it really hurts. But at some point, when we realize this, because it says I made the decision to buy into the story of me
Uh-huh.
myself. I made it myself. It's not the me that made the decision. It's actually I who decided to go with my thinking and to believe it's real.
I think I need to slow down.
Yeah.
Like, take that apart.
Yeah, that's good.
Sometimes I get that and I feel the like non-dual. I mean, probably not at the highest level of someone who meditated for many years or meditated in the right way, but yeah, sometimes I don't feel that the Dorian is at the center of my experience, but I think very often I do.
Yes. Every story needs a protagonist,
Mm-hmm.
and every protagonist itself is a story.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you keep that in mind, you know that all of the me stuff is stories. And if we could go back to the left, to the thoughts that don't move anymore, and check and be like, I don't enjoy the act of drawing anymore. You know, like, could that be a story? Who is that I? Is it really your core essence? Like, was it always like this? Like, why wouldn't you enjoy it anymore? Why does ego think to not, or why do you think to not enjoy it anymore? I don't know. And probably it's because you shield it with a big shadow of guilt and shame. Probably that you put stuff on it like a veil, and it would be fun, it would be exciting, it would be refreshing to work on something new. It would be awesome to get in touch with your creative potential and to create something out of nothing, and to bring this into the world that wants to come through you. You know, like, just let it through, just be the channel, as you said so beautifully. But there always will be the ego resistance, because the ego doesn't want you to be the channel for this kind of stuff. It really wants you because in that moment the ego is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Ego is kind of afraid of you being the channel for something bigger. All of these resistance speech, all of this excuses, you could say, ego doesn't want to die for some hours during the time where you're the channel for the divine speaking through you, through your pencil, through your colors, through your Lego, whatever you're working with. So so every expression, every of these 22 expressions are expressions of fear. Expressions of fear, I think.
Mm.
Let's see if it's true. I struggle with perfectionism.
Yeah, like I'm afraid of not being
Enough.
perfect enough.
Exactly. I struggle with fear of value. Seems like fear. I I feel too insecure to show my work to get feedback. I'm afraid, right?
Mm-hmm.
I work hard, but I don't get better. It's
And I'm
fear of,
afraid I'll never get better.
yeah.
Or don't have talent.
So look, the content is always very different, right? It's not it's this and that, but the context is always the same. It's fear. It's
Mm-hmm.
always it's always like it's always just scaring you out of doing it.
Yeah. Doing it, taking action of living from not ego.
Yes, because actually doing art, to me, is one of the highest states you can do. You can be at. It's like actually letting whatever you think is greater than you, the inspiration, the muse, whatever, talk through you, to be the channel for something greater, and to bring something into existence that is actually fresh and actually right from the source. You know, and like it often to me has this raw energy. feeling. It's as if I'm at sometimes I'm even because I know all of these thoughts, right? But at some point I cannot bear it anymore to be in resistance that much, and then I'm like, come on, fuck it, and then I just do it. Then I just squeeze out the paint. And then it starts. For me, I'm working with Lego, and then I just start putting together some elements, and be like, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna throw it away later. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna disassemble it later, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just get into working with the material, and then I actually do. Sometimes I throw away the first two drafts or something. I don't care. It's just like it has to talk through me, and it cannot if I keep my fingers still. It cannot if I don't
Yeah.
squeeze out the paint,
Yeah.
right? But the ego will do everything to prevent me from doing that first step. Like the starting part is actually, it's not the doing part that's hard. It's actually the starting part that's hard. As you just said yourself, when you made the commitment to paint, and to you it means squeeze out the paint. It's either I am gonna throw out this cadmium, right, or I'm actually gonna do it. Um, like this seems to be your threshold, and to me it's similar, right? To me it's when, and for everyone's art, it's when the rubber actually meets the road. It's whenever art could actually come through you. And sometimes I'm still at fear, but my hands are already moving. And then I have something later. I don't know, like this is a torso, the upper part and the arms, and it starts to be alive or something. But this is already not up to me. What comes to whether this product I'm doing feels alive to me or not, and whether I want to continue it or not, is already down the road, and it's not the hardest decision. The hardest part is actually the starting. It's actually squeezing out the paint. It's really the hardest part. Yeah.
For a long time, my path to getting there was just to increase the pressure and the pain so much until I can't bear it anymore. And I don't want that to be the path, because it's so unpleasant. And then like, for many years, it was like, okay, well then don't paint at all, because I don't want to have that relationship with art making, that I have to put myself in so much pain to finally start. Like, what's the point? So I'm looking for a loving, could be fierce in the sense of courageous, but not self-harming way of starting.
Yeah, I think it's very natural what you describe. And I think on its own, it will change just by you realizing you actually chose to suffer because you thought the secondary benefit would be then I at least work at some time. And what I'm buying with this is that at some point I will do it. Okay. And when you realize that this was not cause and effect necessarily, like suffering didn't make you do art.
Often there's still just suffering and I don't start.
Exactly. To me, it's
which
the
really
same.
Sucks.
Yeah. So it is not cause and effect. It's just the ego's way of because as long as you're suffering, the ego is in control. Like you cannot suffer without the ego.
Because it's about me.
Yes, it's always about you.
Yeah.
And the ego is very inflated during suffering. The ego loves it. This is why the ego makes suffering. This is why the ego inflicts pain on others and stuff. Ego loves pointing fingers at others and projecting guilt, like you are at fault. I'm such a victim. It increases the importance. The story becomes very tragic and dramatic. The ego loves this. Nobody watches a movie where three guys just come together and hang out the whole afternoon smoking weed and laughing uncontrollably, because this, for most people, this is not a good movie. It's a very unsatisfying movie. They'd rather watch something with real pain and drama, like where someone actually goes through suffering and comes out on the other side. I'm not saying movies are wrong, but
there are many reasons for that.
Yeah, it's all giving away the control as well. All of this stuff is victim. Like we could check that too, because it's not fear of myself. It's always fear of something else. or at least being at the effect of something else, even if it's within myself. So if you, I look at, I can't stop procrastinating, because this is like, this could be questionable, right? Because who else but I is procrastinating? And as soon as you realize, I made the decision myself to think I can't stop procrastinating, but, and it's just a story, I don't want to this anymore. I was innocent in thinking that. It was unconscious that I thought that, and I can decide otherwise. And as an intermediate step, as a concession, you could say, it might be useful to think the opposite. It's what Byron Katie does in her The Work.
So what if the opposite is true?
Yeah, what would be the opposite? Like, how does that feel? How do you know? Like, she starts by, I can't stop procrastinating. Is that true? Can you absolutely know it is true? It would be second question. How do you feel? How do you react when you think that thought? And then in the end, it's the turnaround. Can you absolutely know for sure this is true? Yeah, that this is true. Exactly. What happens? How do you react when you think that thought?
When you believe this thought, when you think this thought.
Yeah, when you think or when you believe it. In the end, believing is just a second order of thinking. It's like thinking and thinking it is true.
Yeah.
Like it's not something else. It's just thinking about thinking. Okay, and 4 is kind of the turnaround. What I sometimes ask the question of my coachees, like, what else you got? Especially when they are like, do an either or question or have like 2 options for something. I always will ask for a third one, just because I don't want them to get stuck in limiting themselves to just the first thing that comes to mind, you know. So, and in this case, the turnaround is, what if the opposite was true? What you just said, right? Like, what if, turn it around? Like create a different, what would be the opposite of what you just said? So how would it just sound? It would be, I can stop procrastinating, for example. You know, that would be the opposite. And then you can feel into that and see, and give me examples for how that is true. Tell me 3 examples for how you can stop procrastinating, she would say to her patients, you know, to her clients. Give me 5 examples, 3 examples of how you can, of the turnaround, basically, right? Of how you can stop procrastinating. And then they're like, well, there was this one time I was procrastinating for 3 weeks, and then I got a call from the client, and he just asked, like,
the
so what's
deadline
up?
became apparent again,
or whatever, you know, like, or I forgot about it in the shower, and then I got a new idea of, oh, I haven't tried my blue paint, and then I squeezed it out, and then all of a sudden it got going. So, and then you remember what the ego wanted to suppress, the proof for the parts that where it is not true, because minds are highly biased. It's called investment bias, upholding what we already bought into. If you already have stock in some specific company, you will want them to grow, and you will likely invest new fresh money that you can invest everywhere, even more into that, because you really like want to believe in them, and you want this to be. And this is why I really like made sure to say, I don't want to be right here. I really don't want to be right here. The Work, it's called. The Work, yeah. And this is just for superficially, not superficially, but dealing on the level of thought with thought. To me, this is very useful, especially if you have like one thought, like I can stop procrastinating. It can be a useful method to give to people, to like, try this and tell me how it went, you know.
Should we do a test for me?
Okay. How does it look like?
Well, it could be the portrait or the other painting. Where right now still I feel resistant to working on them. It is Sunday. I have the rest of the day free. I have plenty of other projects and stuff to work on, which I will probably do after we hang up. I will go look at my open loops and get some things done that is not working on the paintings. So let me look at the resistance. I want to choose one of the two projects so we can specifically work on that.
Yes. And it's very important that everyone does this. Never try to blanket carpet shotgun a problem and all the related problems.
Try to solve everything at once. It's another distraction.
You always try to solve one. When you really, really, really solve one, it can become the keystone for everything else. But you never go the other way around. You always go from specific to general. Yeah, so it's much better that way. I love it.
Okay, so the tall painting, not the portrait. I'll focus on the tall painting where I don't know how to resolve the composition in the bottom half of the image. And I feel overwhelmed by that problem. And I've been in that state for a couple months. I'm not at peace about that. It's possible that this belief I have that I don't know how to figure it out and I'm going to make a mess and destroy it. It's possible that that belief is wrong. And I want that belief to be wrong because I want to feel at peace and I want to make progress with this painting. Which brings me to step 5, I guess. So please let me see it differently.
Yeah, so please check step 3 again.
Okay.
Because it's important that you chose, or I don't know, you chose to go with the ego's plan to believe in the story. You maybe unconsciously, probably unconsciously, probably innocently, but you yourself chose to say, yeah, you know what? I really fear messing up that image, and I really believe in this me movie. You made the decision myself, and you can decide otherwise. You have the capacity to find a different view on this. Like you the same way you could choose this one that really hurts, the same way you can choose a different one that doesn't hurt. That is actually like pure niceness. I think it's the technical term. Pure niceness, yes, for this process.
Yeah, and step 2 and 3 are kind of also one thing, because
in the end, it's all one. Like this is what I wanted to say. In the end, it will be after you practice this maybe for I don't know a year or 5 or 10 years, whatever. Or if you're a natural instantly, then you will be able to just feel the feeling that is less than perfect peace and be like, no. like Neo in the Matrix at the very end of the first movie. Like the bullets come and he's like, no. And it's not a like no or something. It's just this is not mine, like I won't take this as I won't take this. This is not worthy of me. The only thing why you were accepting this is because you were buying into the guilt and the shame projections. This is why you were accepting what is less than perfect fit, because you thought you were deserving of this, because you believed in your guilt. Innocence is very important for this process, and forgiveness always resolves guilt. Forgiveness is always like the antidote to guilt. It's just letting go of the illusion of guilt. I was making myself, this me image, guilty for it. And it didn't happen, surprise, because the me is never the artist. The me is always in the way. So, and this is the shift that has to happen.
I think the me can be the artist. Like some people work like that. I think there's like a lot of effort and they make it happen with effort.
Okay. Yeah.
For some people more effort and for some people less. Maybe me having all these excuses and taking the victim position is just easier than painting. Because painting is challenging, which is another belief. So by listening to this, I can read books about self-development and psychology, and like something happened to me that messed me up, and I don't have this self-belief, so I can't start. And like maybe this is all, I'm doing all this and spending a lot of energy, I'm suffering, but maybe all that is easier than actually painting. So like, is it just that I'm lazy? I think this is another path I find myself going down.
Yes, and that's
often.
like, again, who is talking, you know? And I don't want to like dich vorführen, you know, like I don't want to make you sound wrong or something. But if it's about me again, if it's about, but
we
am I
just
lazy
start the
then?
whole process again.
Yeah,
So
you
like, I'm not at
always,
peace.
yeah, you
There's a
always have
story
then
that's not helpful.
something more to forgive, and
Mhm.
and this isn't like, I mean, you could add item 23. I'm just lazy, you know. So it will always be about me and about what it means about me and so on. And it's never about the art, you know. You, for example, never thought this project doesn't seem right, ripe like a fruit, like right now it isn't moving. Maybe because it isn't ripe. Who knows? You chose innocently and unconsciously to make it about you. You know, like it's this, and I will make an illegal comparison. But if you would have a fruit garden and you would sell fruits, you wouldn't go to the tree and be like, "Oh no, the fruits are still green. How lazy am I? I, I, you know." You would understand that everything has its time, and when they are ripe, you will know. Or they will even fall to the ground. You won't even have to harvest them, you know? Or they will kind of like sit in your hand and come to your hand as soon as you touch them. You will be like, it will be so easy to pick them. But as long as it's not ripe, you kind of would have to tear it with force. And they, of course, don't want that.
Doesn't taste good.
Doesn't taste good. It's full of resistance. You don't want to tear it with force. But your thinking says, but it should be ripe. I need to deliver fruits to my client. He's waiting, you know, like there's a lot of should, right? It should be like this. It should be not as it is, which is always benign and fine. It should be like ego thinks, like I think as it is. Sorry, right? And of course, it's the ego's thinking, and then you get this. I think someone said people who should on themselves might as well shit on themselves. It's really never helpful, you know. And in this case as well, if you are standing next to your tree and like, but I should be able to pick these things, I should be able to send them to my client, like they are waiting, well, you can send them, you can with force separate this from the tree and send them fruit that isn't ripe, and that, you know, you can do this, and by that you just force it. Or you can with power work with power, with the flow, and be like, yo, you know, client, we can do this, but you could also wait 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know. We can wait as long as it takes, and I can promise to you instead to just pick them when they are ripe, whenever that will be, you know. And you can choose which will you rather have, something that is forced to completion, or something that we picked when it was ripe. You can decide.
And with both of these projects, there is no deadline really. The clients are flexible, so any pressure that I feel I've put on myself.
Exactly. And we already established twice that you did it because you thought it would help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your unconscious or conscious, I don't know nowadays, belief about it. I'm just saying for the most people, or for me, it's most of the time it's unconscious. I just choose to hurt myself because I think I will get some secondary benefit out of it.
Yeah.
It's very deep in our culture, this sacrifice culture, I would
Yeah.
call it. You know, we have to sacrifice. You have to be really hard to yourself, and then it might work. You know, but I would question that. I don't think we need to sacrifice, but it's you do you, you know. So I would. Okay, so where were we? Maybe you can.
Me getting to the point where I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to paint now. But
Well,
maybe
that's the
that
point.
doesn't need to be the outcome.
Exactly, because if you let that go, if you let go the idea that it has to be continued to be painted now,
Yeah.
because maybe it hasn't. Maybe it
Yeah.
has to wait for another 2 months. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like I would even, like if we were working together, I did this with a few clients. I even prohibited them to do. For example, there was a guy who.
Václavic.
Oh yeah, is it? Is it
I
Václavic
think so. He
technique?
has some.
Yeah. So I've heard it somewhere. I think I got it from one of my coaches, and it really worked on me. So I tried it, and it really worked. So it's like if you think you really need more clients and you really need to make more proposals, but you're kind of shying away from making proposals, or if you think you should approach more people on the street because you want to find more partners or whatever, but you shy away from doing that, you're afraid. A good way could be to say you're not allowed to do this for the next month or so. Have you ever experienced this, or have you read about it?
I read about it. I don't think I've experienced it. It's hard to do with yourself, I find.
I see. I see.
I make the rule and I can break it and there's nobody else involved.
Yeah.
But if you tell me I can't work on these two paintings, I'm like, okay, like I haven't been working on them anyway. But I don't
Well,
have to feel bad about it.
exactly, and that's the point. Then you cannot guilt yourself for it for
Mm-hmm.
the next month or so, because like it was your coach who kind of decided and superimposed this onto you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like out of the picture, and you're like, oh, finally, and you're kind of even happy about it. You're kind of like, okay, nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to work on it. Of course, there might be some like, but then it will never be finished, and your
Mm-hmm.
coach will be like, don't worry, don't worry. Like it's just an exercise, right? Don't worry. Do it for 1 month. You're not allowed to work on these paintings or to finish them or whatever, you know. You are allowed to work on the side, like make sketches, get inspiration for them if you want it, right? Like I won't. Just don't apply any paint to the actual painting. And what usually happens is that the people are not afraid anymore because they think they should, and instead they get into serving mode. They don't think about making money, about making new clients, about making relationships and so on. They're just serving. They're just like, oh, okay, then I'm gonna be on a phone call with her and help her, and then with him and help him. And a month goes very very quickly, and all of a sudden they have 20 new guys or girls who
Mm-hmm.
really
Through
really love working.
recommendations.
Yeah, they really love working with them, and they are now asking like, can we work together?
Mm.
Like, why don't you, we already talked 3 times, why don't you tell me how much it would be to do it regularly and on purpose, you know? Like you seem professional about it, like let's do it, you know. Just to make one important point, the presupposition that is not talked about if we talk about this big painting is that it should move ahead, that you should be painting on it, that it should,
Finish it, yeah.
finish, exactly, finish it. And which is, and finishing it is never now. You can just, right. It's,
Well, I
and
can say it is done. I'm not gonna do anything more to it, and like client deal with it. This is what I'm delivering.
okay, but like if you would say that, I would just challenge you. Why don't you just say it is done, client deal with it?
Yeah, I'm not happy with it.
Yeah, and it seems unfinished. It seems like there's something more coming to it, right?
Yeah.
It seems like something will happen, and then it will be ripe to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And what if this something will happen is also a process, not fully up to you? Let's make it soft. Not fully up to you when it will be. And if you stay open, you will recognize it. You will be like, huh, now it feels like squeezing out the paint again that matches the color palette of that paint. No, now it feels like working on it again. And sorry.
That I want to do it and not that I should do it.
Yeah. Because like shoulding is always the forcing, right? It's always like again this trying to rip that fruit from the tree, even if it's not ripe. It's like forcing something to happen. If it was happening, you wouldn't should on it.
Yeah, I also feel like I have tried to do that. Like when I feel like I should, then, well, just let it rest and wait until it calls me. But it's been a year or more and it hasn't called me. Yeah. Only when I create pressure, I start working on it.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe I haven't fully let it go enough.
Yeah, exactly. Like forgiveness. I think if you don't like, this is just one approach. This Václavic therapy apparently, of just forbidding something and then letting it rest to the side, and often it heals on its own. And if you think you have to work on it like deliberately, then there is a process, and the process is called forgiveness. So you can actually look at it and find the feelings inside you that are less than perfect peace, and actually work on them in a way that you not make them real first, not be like, oh, these feelings are so important and constant, which they are not. They are always related to some thought that is now. They are always related to something that you are making up about the situation, and it can only be now. So I would never look in the past. I would just look about now. Like how do I make it now that I feel this inhibition to even get close to that? You know. So maybe I don't know if you're still let's say in shape to do this today, because I'm feeling we're getting to the done state for now.
Yeah.
Right? But this would be the next step either way, whether this is now or whether this is in 2 weeks now. Right? You at some point you would just look at it and say, how come I feel this? Not how come, but I don't want to feel this way about it. I'd rather feel perfect peace about it, and do forgiveness on it. Practice it. Like just play with forgiveness. Just it's really just playing and practicing. It's if you approach it like the craft of art, like the craft of painting, then it will be this. It will treat you the same way. It will be better and better every time you do it. It will just improve. So forgiveness for me is just a practice. I do it whenever I feel bad. I attempt to do it, and it always, at some point, it always changes. My view on things always changes. My outlook on life always changes, and I move closer and closer towards perfect peace. That's why I talk about it so highly. It's such a game changer for me.
Yeah, your feeling, your state changes.
Yeah, and with forgiveness, it's like stable. It's not just like an anchor where you have a good feeling and you're just overriding it. It's not like overriding it, and when you let go the focus, then the bad feelings come back. It's more like you have a set of bad feelings, you forgive them, and they are gone. And there might be coming up some more bad feelings from seemingly the same wound. But first of all, it's not a wound, and second of all, it's never the same. Even if it's the same content, this new wave of forgiveness will do some new change, and you will only see this after the fact. I'm just saying it because the ego will say, oh, you already forgave this, it doesn't work, right? But don't believe it. Just do forgiveness, even if it takes 20 times over and over. it will, every time, every forgiveness is never lost. It always resolves some guilt, and you feel it. You feel lighter. And every time you do it, it will just move you closer and closer to perfect peace and stabilize it. And yeah, highly recommend forgiveness. So
Yeah, like a digestion process.
yeah, kind of.
Nice. Thank you.
Oh
No.
yeah, I wanted to ask you now, because you kind of said I wanted to test twice. So I wanted to ask you if you would just honestly inquire about this project. Do you feel like this moved a little bit? And the answer can be a no.
Yeah, I
Because
immediately feel like I want to please you and say, oh yeah, it was
yeah,
amazing. And now,
absolutely.
so I'm seeing that and dropping it.
The answer can be a no, and this doesn't mean that it actually hasn't. Just saying, like it can be a no from the point of view of the ego who wants to
Stay in the drama.
Yeah, stay in the drama. So, and of course, if you want to make that true, you can be like, no, it actually didn't move. I want to stay there forever. And then it's just even denser ego, and that's fine. I'm not talking about you here specifically. I'm talking about in general. These are the different things that can happen and that can look very real, right? Like, no, it hasn't moved. It's very typical, even like it's very typical.
I think the realization that there isn't a deadline is like, it's helpful. That any time pressure I make is artificial in a way. Like any bad feelings I have about not moving forward, like they're unnecessary. And I have a deeper understanding of this process that I think now I could do on my own. So that changed. That's some learning and progress. That all of these statements are about me, and that they're all fear statements. Probably we didn't go through all of them,
we haven't checked to the end, but
probably it's about me. It's about fear or like drama, and it's about being a victim of what's happening. Is pretty helpful, and I think that will also be useful when I teach or coach, just as a check. Like, okay, so what this person is telling me is a big obstacle. Is it about an ego thing? Is it about a fear? And is it about being a victim? Then you can question on those three levels. And then work with it and change it.
Yeah, I love that. I especially loved the part where you said, I saw for this larger image you're making, that there is no time pressure, and I'm like, if there is pressure, there's just one possible source, right? Like I am kind of doing this, and this is the step 3 I was pointing to. Whenever you see that I must have a perceptual problem right now, because I feel so pressured and such a victim of life and whatever circumstances, even though nobody's here, nobody's saying anything to me, And instead, you basically said, well, I realize that the only one who is creating time pressure can be me. No one else can do it. In fact, the client said they are quite flexible. And in the same way, it is every other feeling of, I don't want to go there, it's painful or whatever. Also, no one else could have done it, right? So I made the decision myself. It is very important. Like no one else. And this is very empowering. It's not to put you down. It's like, yeah, you're such an idiot that no, it's innocently and unconsciously. It's just good to make it conscious, so you can also decide otherwise, right? You can say, you know what, I want to decide otherwise, and that's the point. So to me, it sounds like a big success, not because you right now feel like, oh, let's go paint this image, because I wasn't making this the criteria for success. Because if it's not, it might not be ripe right now, and I wouldn't like you to force it. Right?
Yeah.
My criteria for success is that you have seen something new, and it does not have to be everything. Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think more about this, like stepping out of the victim role in the past has only, well, mostly been possible through force. Like, yeah, creating so much pressure that I need to change something. But there's a way to step out of the victim role in a trusting way. We're opening to the possibilities that are there that I haven't been able to see before.
Absolutely. And man, I want to really make you innocent again, and everyone else who is listening, because there was nothing wrong with being in the victim role, or there's nothing wrong about any of this, or about thinking the 22 things on the left side. It's just what happened. It's just what we do if we are doing this human thing that is very common, and it's so important to not make this a new thing to beat yourself over the head with, to like, oh no, I'm such a victim of my ego now. Like, no, like, it's all fine, don't worry. It's like, it's just good to know that this was no one else who was pressuring you, and that you can choose otherwise, that you don't have to believe it, that you don't, and when you stand in front of it and it triggers pain in you, that you can just look there and be like, what's up here? Like, I apparently associate with this something that isn't true. Like, and I don't want this. I did this myself, and I don't want to do this anymore. I can't choose otherwise. Like, and just be really open to not be right with how you see this, not be right how you think this should go down, and be shown differently. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks so much, man. Means a lot. And yeah, that was fun.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. If you'd like to stay in touch, you can do that on my email list or our public Discord server. I'll see you there or in the next video. Take care.